everyone, welcome to Let's Program with Scientier, and today, boredom. I mean, making file I.O. in categories, which will probably amount to much the same thing, but I apologize for necessary functionality being added to my program to make it work right. All right. Using system.io. Okay. So I need to write to a binary writer. Output. I'm going to add a binary reader input. Okay. So part of what I need to do is figure out how I'm kind of arranging my save file. So that's going to be kind of important. Whoops, that's supposed to be an int. So there's a couple of things that we need to kind of take into consideration. The first is when we're writing out a category, we don't want to write out a category. So the way that I'm going to say this is we need to write out a category and all of its children, and we need to read in a category and all of its children. The way we're going to kind of handle things, though, is we're going to write out categories that have at least like an active thing, if that makes sense. So kind of the way that I'm going to phrase this is the trick of this is like I know if a task is active or not. Excuse me. I don't know if a category has active tasks or not, if that kind of makes sense. What I might do is I might set this up so that way the way that I do it is I maintain... No, trying to maintain IDs with that is just really ugly. Because it's really easy to just go repeater output dot write name, which I do need to do, and then name equals input dot read string. So let's just take care of the stuff that I know that I need to do. So the main thing that a category has, quite frankly, is it has a name, tasks, and subcategories. It also has an ID, which is extremely important, but the ID is generated through the making process, like right here. And the parent is kind of like the same way. So I don't need to write out the parent, and I don't need to write out the ID, because those things are going to kind of be generated. So these are literally the only things that I care about saving from it. So yeah. Now, but the problem is I don't want to save stuff that I don't need. Okay? So what I mean by that is if a category has no tasks, I'm not sure I need to save it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and maybe I do want to save it. And what I can just do is add functionality to like purge empty categories. And I think that makes the most sense. It's the most straightforward with this. That's for friggin' sure. Yeah, that's very much so for sure. Okay, so let's just go here. Let's write our tasks first, and then our sub categories. So the big thing that's going to be important to remember is that this is going to write out all of its subcategories because I need to maintain the hierarchy. I'm going to need to, therefore, in the save function right here, what I'm going to do is identify parentless categories. So this is going to be list category parentless categories. And then for each category cat in category.all categories, if cat.parent is equal to null, parentless categories.add cat. There we go. And then what we'll end up doing is for each category. Actually, okay, so this is super redundant. I don't need no stinking list. Identify parentless categories and save them. Yeah, that's all we need to do. Cat.write output. Boom. That's all that will need to do. Actually, that's wrong. That's not actually all that needs to do. Error. There's okay. So, you might be confused at this exact moment why I'm like, wait, no, I do need this. You'll see in just a sec. So I need to go. How many categories do we have without parents? Important. So, I mean, there's ways around it, but if you just know how much stuff you have, that's just better. So technically, yes, it would be more efficient in a way to have this instead of output the count just output each time. Then we just have to, like, when we're reading stuff in, make sure, are we at the end of the stream? No, keep reading stuff. But this is a lot more guaranteed in terms of how things are working. And if you decide to change stuff later, it's a lot less prone to what I'll call accidental issues, shall we say. Yeah. Accidental issues. Okay, so something that I want to do actually in task is I can be explicit right here and go if archived return. Don't save archived tasks. Okay, so that's something that I think is real good to add to that. That makes this really, really simple. We just actually no, it doesn't really matter. But what we need to do is list tasks alive tasks equals new list of tasks for each, and this is going to be really similar. Task, and tasks. If task.archived is equal to false, alive tasks.add task. And then I'm just going to find tasks that haven't been archived. And then what I can do is on the context menu that pops up for categories, I can add a delete category there that doesn't work if that category isn't empty. Actually, it's a little ugly to delete categories just because of what it does to the numbers. So I might actually add a specific thing under edit for that. So that way I can make sure, okay, I'm deleting these categories. Let's sync up all of our indexes so things don't explode. That's probably a better idea. Probably. Because this is a very complicated process to delete a category, actually. So having them, like, not write out is kind of nice, but, like, hey, you know, you add a category that you plan on keep continuously using, so it makes sense to add more of an elaborate category delete later. And if you want to get rid of a task, just mark it complete and then hit archive and then reload the program and it'll be gone. That's the way that I'm planning on handling that. And archive them and save them. Okay, so output.write live tasks.count, and then for each task in a live tasks task.write. Excuse me, output. Save subcategories. Okay. So the way this is going to work is fairly straightforwardly, I think. Category cat in subcategories. Output.write cat. Or cat.write output. Yeah, grammar that right. That's what we do for one of these. So let's just go ahead and kind of reverse that. Go int tasks equal input.read int32. For int I equals 0, I is less than tasks, plus I. Add task. So let's go ahead and go task equals new task.read input add task. That should hook that up. Int subcats equals input.read int32, this guy. For int I equals 0, I is less than subcats. Again, this is just going to be a lot of me mumbling as I'm typing stuff that you can kind of just see what I'm doing. Read in tasks. Read in subcategories. So then category cat equals new category. Cat dot let's see. Add subcategory cat cat dot read. Just in case that matters, I don't think. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and do that in case that matters too. Okay, so that will read in all of our stuff, which is important. Archiving it is a little bit more of a bear. In part because I don't want to necessarily fill up the archive file with a bunch of like categories that aren't being used, but I just run into the same problem of like, yeah. It's just cleaner. How do I want to set this up? Well, I guess what all of that I'll do is I'll just be like, hey, if there's empty stuff, there's empty stuff, right? It'll just keep a record of kind of like what categories are around. I don't know. I kind of want to do though. Like yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to think about, I'm going to not write any code here for the moment because this is doing kind of what I need. What I want to do here, I think, is identify all categories that have archived tasks and potentially try to set up a temporary bit of information about Zem and kind of work through that, if that makes sense. Maybe? Because I don't want to fill up the archive files because they're going to be fairly verbose with a bunch of extraneous data. Now, actually, I might leave archiving for just a moment because I should actually just come in here and go if file dot. Okay, I see you using system.io. If file dot exists data lock, we can read it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep doing the thing that we have been doing. So this is going to binary reader input equals new binary reader file dot open. I can probably just open system off reading. Yeah, that's probably fine. Data lock. Do stuff. Remember to close it so we can save back to it later. That's super important, by the way. Make sure to close your files. Leaving files dangling open for no good reason. There are good reasons, by the way. But if you're doing it for no good reason, you'll just cause yourself frustration. I'm gonna drink some water now. And my goal, by the way, in between stuff is to probably test some of this functionality, so you might see some extra categories floating around at the start of the next session, so don't be surprised if that happens. Actually, I might just delete the thing, but whatever. Okay, so I just need category. So I just need int cat count equals input dot read int 32. Actually, int version equals input dot read int 32. It's really actually kind of a bad idea to have these in two separate locations, but okay, I've decided to do this, so that's what I'm doing. If I end up making another version, then I will kind of split stuff out, like I did for the timeline tool. If you want to kind of spend a bunch of time watching me fumble around with the timeline tool, you can watch that and you can see how I set up the reading there. But it's important to me to just kind of get this working, and I don't expect to need to change the file format. One of the things that you'll notice is that I'm planning on adding a bunch of task modules, but it does not actually change the file format because unless if I changed what data is being saved from a task module, that would change the file format. But because I'm not, and if that happens, I'll need to change a bunch of stuff so I can add version number things into all of the read functions and all of that jazz. So just talking about that out loud is making me think I should just go in here to read and go comma int version and just update these to have version numbers. Doesn't hurt anything to get ahead on that. If that happens, I definitely want to make sure that I have that. So I'm really glad that I ranted at you guys about version numbers. Yeah, I know. This is now broken. So I'm just going to go ahead and add support for this, so that way I don't have to worry about it later. Most of these are going to be super extraneous passes, by the way. I'm not going to need to worry about version number stuff, but if I do need it, then I have it. So cat count plus plus I let go of shift too soon. Category cat equals new category cat dot read input comma version, please. Thank you. Okay, so that should read in all of our categories, and then they'll be loaded in our handy dandy file. Main window, when it first opens, actually does our... So this is one of the things that you also need to do on sort of this stuff. So does our category view, or our category control, probably does not automatically load all of these. So what we need to do is not this, actually. Category view control. Yeah, when this loads up, I really sincerely doubt that it has all of the categories in it. But what we can do is, yeah, that where I did way more work than I needed to. What I can do is I can go ahead and go into this guy and load existing categories into the node thingy. For each category in category all categories category view control dot add category. Okay, so I'll be as normal, like testing some of this stuff in between episodes, but I think this should do all that I need to do for reading this stuff in. And then when we make main window, the main window will set all of that stuff up, and we'll have all of our categories there. And then that should be good. May not have a thing selected by default, but you know, that is life. That reminds me, there was something. There was like, oh yeah, that was task edit form. This guy over here. When I add a add task module, click adds it. And index equals task modules dot count dot items dot count task modules dot item or dot selected index should equal index. Select the new item. Okay. Sorry, I was just thinking about that. So at this point, the main thing that I have left to figure out is how I'm going to set up the archive behavior. So this is going to be a little bit complicated because I definitely do not want to save categories that are not a thing, if that makes sense. Like if I archive, then it should purge, or it should only save categories that have archived stuff in them. So what that means is that I basically have to identify all of the categories with stuff to archive. So let's see. And that's going to be completed tasks. Right. So how do I want to do this is the real sort of crutch of the matter, if that makes sense. because I want to indent, because basically I want a file that looks something like, say, category. That was that really a tab? You know, and then like task stuff, task stuff, category for any subcategories that have stuff in them, task. You know, something kind of like this, structurally speaking. But I want to basically be like, hey, this category has tasks in it. This category has tasks in it. This category has tasks in it, etc. And so what I might need to do is just like set up some sort of temporary structure that's like, here's how all of these categories with tasks in them sort of are arranged, if that makes sense. But I'm not quite sure how I want to do that. I know how I want to do that. I am going to set up the void archive category cat. So what this is going to do is if let's see. So let's see. I need a bool completed task equals false for each task in cat dot tasks. If task dot completed and not task dot archived. It's important. Completed task equals true, break. So if completed task, actually this needs to be bool. So if completed task oh yeah, this also is going to need a stream writer output. So this is something that's going to be kind of complicated to write, so I might kind of get this a little bit wrong. But if we have a completed task, oh, this is not really going to do what I want. It was a nice idea, but it's not going to work because the problem is I need to be able to like go through, okay, do my children have completed tasks, write them after I write myself. So what I actually need is some sort of like node structure. Like this will probably still be semi-useful. But what I kind of need is like a reverse building node structure, if that makes any sense. So class archive category node. I'm gonna have a category cat category. Well, and then actually, let's just do public int category equals -1. List int child categories. And I think that's kind of what I need. Actually, no, this needs to be a list of these guys. And then what I would do is, I don't need that. List, let's see, task archivable tasks equals new list of tasks. For each task in tasks or in task dot all tasks, if task dot completed and not task dot archived, because we don't need to re-archive tasks, archivable tasks dot add task. Okay, and then what we would need to do is, you know, I have a really great idea. I have a fantastic idea that just makes this so less headachy. That's just crazy. I didn't think about it earlier. Category is going to get rid of this because it doesn't need it. And tasks are probably just all going to be on a raw depth because I'm just going to get rid of the madness inherent in the system. And I'm just going to go name, creation date, priority, output.writeLine, tabs plus category plus category ID dot as category dot toString true for the full name, and just do that. That will be so much cleaner and easier than any other nonsense madness I was trying to do. And then I can just go over to main window, and if it's archivable, I don't care. I don't need this. It just task.archive. Output 0. There. I want to do something grander. But setting it up is just a giant pain in the rear end, and knowing what category it's in is fine. Maybe in the future, if I really feel inventive, I will put together the really complicated thing, but honestly, I don't think it matters that much because I don't foresee myself going into these files all that often, and just knowing, okay, it came from this category structure is probably good enough. I could, I suppose, find all of my archivable tasks and sort them by category ID, which doesn't actually seem awful. Because then I have related tasks next to each other. But I don't know. I'm okay with it just being a jumble and not worrying about doing all of that stuff. So that's going to go ahead and call it for today. The good news is I think I'm done with the last of this sort of like I/O stuff. I'm going to just test stuff on my own, and if things seem broken, I'll kind of fix it and then report on that later, just because the workflow works better that way. Until next time, everyone, take care.